في عالم يموج بالأحداث وتتسارع فيه المتغيرات، قد تتحول الأهداف وتتسع المسافات. نتواصل لتبقى فلسطين هي البوصلة. منتدى فلسطين الدولي للإعلام والاتصال. تواصل.
This is the first time in history that we make such a proposition.
Now we know that Israeli officials at the highest level suggested redesigning their country's borders to exclude some Arab populations in return for key Jewish settlements.
This is reconstruction.
Does swap mean also the swap of inhabitants? I know this is a problem for you.
We'll never accept any change in the reality of the life of the Arabs living in Israel or their transfer. They're Israeli citizens.
You didn't accept the annexations of settlement blocks, and we never accepted 1967 borders. Therefore, let's look at the maps.
The Al-Aqsa Brigade's member was apparently marked as a target at a meeting of Israeli and Palestinian ministers.
Hassan Mathoun, we know his address, and Rashid Abu Shbak knows that. Why don't you kill him?
We gave instruction to Rashid, and we'll see.
Okay, this is how we turn documents into television for the first What Killed Arafat. Go ahead.
Al Jazeera has undertaken a 9-month investigation to try to find out what killed Yasser Arafat. Was it natural causes or murder? 8 years ago, Arafat's medical files were handed over to the Palestinian Authority. While they promised a full investigation, little has happened since. But there was a second copy held by his widow, Suha. She agreed to give his entire medical files to Al Jazeera for this exclusive investigation. His medical notes record that he was feeling faint, with nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain, but no fever. Our first consulting expert is Professor Dave Barkley, a world-renowned forensic scientist whose expertise is solving cold cases.
I've been studying all the paperwork that could be retrieved from the medical records. It's a really good file.
According to the file, the first doctor to examine Arafat was this man, Omar Daka, his personal physician for almost 20 years. Arafat had suffered from flu a year before, and Daka believed it was just a rerun.
Okay, last summer we released Pakistan's bin Laden file. Pakistani government did an investigation into how bin Laden lived all those years undetected, and Al Jazeera released it. I think the global media attention was about the same as Arafat. People were really astonished by what the Pakistani government revealed. Go ahead, please. The night of the raid takes on a new narrative, as told by Pakistani witnesses and bin Laden's wives. U.S. choppers take off from Jalalabad Air Base in Afghanistan after 2,300 hours. Pakistani radars do not detect them. The report says they are at rest, or as the Air Force prefers, peacetime deployment. The sound of the helicopter wakes bin Laden and his youngest wife, Amal. She tells investigators bin Laden said the American helicopters had arrived. She went to turn on the light, but the Sheikh says no.
No state institution in Pakistan was spared. The military and political leadership displayed a degree of incompetence and irresponsibility that was truly breathtaking and indeed culpable. Politicians appeared uninformed and lazy. The head of military intelligence told the commission our whole system had become dysfunctional.
According to the report, the U.S. turned to the Pakistani ambassador to the U.S., Hussein Haqqani. The report accuses Haqqani of providing hundreds of visas, which ultimately facilitated the unilateral manhunt for Osama bin Laden. That is something he strongly denies.
But throughout this report, there's a tone of disbelief that so many state institutions failed so often and so completely that bin Laden was able to live undetected in Pakistan. The extent of the incompetence was astonishing, if not unbelievable.
This is another leaked report we got from the State Department on their security failings in Benghazi. This was a project we did in Al Jazeera America, which was a very politically sensitive one because Democrats and Republicans were fighting over which administration was weaker on security and how did the embassy get attacked. So here's another example of how we turn documents into television.
Mr. Secretary, this report says lives are being put at risk. The report highlights systematic security failures within the Department of State. Waivers for not meeting security standards have become commonplace. Every facility the panel visited in Africa and the Middle East had an immediate need for an intelligence analyst, and previous security recommendations have been largely ignored.
The document obtained by Al Jazeera recommends a structural shake-up rather than a checklist of piecemeal reforms, as well as creating the new post of Undersecretary for Diplomatic Security. The report notes that the present security environment requires a new paradigm and that a significant cultural shift in the department was needed.
Okay, real quick, Oz. Before I show this, I'm going to take us back to Palestine, because that's what we're here for. My point in showing you these examples is, in television, if someone gives me great documents, it's not enough for me to just to have great documents. First, I have to corroborate that they're genuine documents. That takes a lot of time, believe it or not. Then we have to think of visual and innovative ways to turn it into television. So by having the best cameraman, the best graphics team, we're able to do that. For those of you that are in the TV side of journalism, it's an extra challenge. It's something that we have to deal with, because in today's day and age, someone can take a thumb drive or a CD that says Lady Gaga and walk away with WikiLeaks and walk away with NSA documents. So more and more in journalism, we're facing massive disclosures, huge leaks. And as journalists, we have to be able to process that and ultimately present it to the viewer in a way that is contextualized so they understand it. Now, with the Palestine Papers, the uproar, the reaction was immediate. Tony Blair said that Al Jazeera was trying to destabilize the peace process. Thank you very much, Mr. Blair. Thomas Friedman denounced this of the New York Times for publishing the papers. We had a number of people come out and attack us for the decision to publish, as well as The Guardian. They said that we were harming the chances of a two-state solution. And inevitably, the Palestinian Authority took to character attacks. And this is one example of the character attacks that I faced, which was kind of entertaining. Go ahead.
The PLO's chief negotiator, Saeb Erekat, condemned the release of the Palestine Papers, accusing Al Jazeera of slander and calling for the source of the leaks to be revealed.
If any of the documents were leaked from my office, then I take full responsibility. And for your information and the Arab citizen, what we understand is that the person who has tried to attack us is a Mr. Clayton Swisher. He is a member of the CIA who works for the US Foreign Security. And we now also know that Clayton Swisher had a closed meeting with Wadah Kanfar to plan all this fake information. Tonight, I've contacted the US Foreign Office and we have formally requested an investigation into this former CIA member.
So as you can see, people weren't too happy in some quarters. And maybe this is a reason why I can't speak for other Western journalists. But if you're looking at the entire world, there's really no upside for getting involved in reporting Palestine. You can report Ukraine, you can report anywhere else. You start touching Palestine, oddly enough, some of the people who will attack you most are Palestinians. I want to show you guys more evidence of the Palestinian Authorities' I would say reluctance to help with our Arafat investigation, and at some points their outright hostility to us as journalists. If you could please clip 2. So before we roll it, I just want to give you guys background.
They may even block access to the body.
Will the French still be allowed to do their tests? Pause. Okay. In 2012, I'll give you guys the Reader's Digest version. Actually, in November 2011, I met with Mrs. Arafat in Malta and convinced her to share with me the entire medical file of her late husband. There had been 2 copies, one with the Palestinian Authority, one with her as the widow. She was entitled to it. Palestinian Authority did not want to release it. I went to Ms. Arafat, she agreed to give it to me. I went to the University Center for Legal Medicine in Lausanne, Switzerland. They're one of the preeminent forensic laboratories in the world. When there's a suspicious case at Guantanamo, they call this lab in Switzerland to investigate the suspicious death. They're called on by the United Nations as experts. They're independent, they're neutral, they're Switzerland, right? I thought this would be the best lab in the world to undertake a forensic cold case review of the Arafat file. And I think I was right. The Swiss looked at the file. They said, this is interesting, but we need something to test forensically. I went back to Mrs. Arafat and said, is there anything? She said, there's a bag of my husband's clothing that went with him from Ramallah to the hospital. And to cut to a long story short, when they went to the laboratory, I went to the laboratory with this bag. They went through it. They found 20 milliliters of human hair inside his hat, but that turned out to be not interesting at all. There was no conventional poison in his hair. In a urine stain from his underwear and a blood stain from his hospital cap that was taken from his dead, lifeless body, and in the sweat stain of his collar and in his toothbrush, they found radioactive polonium, the kind made in a reactor that doesn't exist naturally on Earth, which means one of 2 things. Arafat had polonium made in a reactor circulating in his blood, or I or someone else put the polonium in his blood stain, in his urine stain. So after of course I would have to have very good nuclear contacts to do such a fabrication at such a level that would be believable to the world and these scientists, et cetera, okay? People did accuse me of that, by the way. At the end of that process, the Swiss said to Ms. Arafat, the only way to know for sure if there's time is to exhume the body, because polonium, it disappears by 50% every 138 days. There might be enough left that we can tell. There shouldn't be very much polonium in anyone's skeleton, even if it exists naturally. So, this film that I'm about to show you, Killing Arafat. If not?
If we agree.
If not, then we'll never know the truth.
أنا السيد هون. أنا صاحب السيادة هون. ما حدا بيفرض علي شروط.
Inside, before a packed auditorium, Nasser Kidwa makes his strongest appeal yet to stop the exhumation.
مؤخرا خرج علينا البعض بفكرة بغيضة وهي نبش قبر عرفات أي تدنيس قبره والمساس برفاته. لماذا؟ أظن أنه لا يوجد مبرر لذلك. شعبنا يعرف الحقيقة.
That night, the senior Palestinian leadership sit down to decide on what to do. Despite Kidwa's pleas, they finally agree to exhume Arafat's body with all the consequences it may bring. November 11th. The Palestinian Authority marks 8 years since Arafat's death. Mahmoud Abbas will use the commemoration to announce the decision to exhume. Nasser Kidwa is scheduled to speak. But first, there's a heated exchange with Tawfiq Tarawi, and then with Saab Erekat, and finally with President Abbas himself. In the end, Kidwa chooses not to give a speech at all. President Abbas will do all the talking.
ويجري التنسيق التام في هذه الأيام بيننا وبين محققين فرنسيين وخبراء سويسريين وأيضا من الحكومة الروسية لفتح الضريح.
This is the first time we have heard anything about a Russian investigation. The Palestinian Authority has invited forensic experts from Moscow. It is perhaps because they are skeptical of the French, who claim to have destroyed but later found Yasser Arafat's samples. And they see the Swiss scientists as linked to Al Jazeera.
فهذه قضية أكبر وأهم من أن تكون فرقعة إعلامية كما فعلت قناة الجزيرة.
Mohammed Darame is a journalist who's covered the Palestinian Authority for decades. He explains their hostility.
I met with seniors who believed that Al Jazeera did it intentionally to create an Arab Spring here in Palestine. They had these fears that Al Jazeera is trying to play in our yard.
But in spite of any perceived political games, the Palestinians are still agreed on the exhumation, except for Nasser Kidwa.
There is much better and more effective way to try to do an extra step if it is needed, and it's not by exhuming the body.
Are you more satisfied with the approach that President Abbas outlaid today, where there'll be French, Swiss, and Russian investigators coming?
I'm not in favor of exhuming the body in principle.
November 12th. With the decision made, the Palestinian Authority starts preparing the ground, ensuring their work is hidden from public view. November 13th. We realize we're being followed.
They are talking on two-way microphones, coordinating with other cars. If they are trying to be discreet, it's not really working, but they may just be trying to intimidate us. We stage bogus journeys around Ramallah. During the first, a silver vehicle pursues our cameraman. On the second, we're tailed by a black car. The giveaway is when we get to the roundabout.
Keep going around.
And it happens again with a different vehicle. One more time, one more time, one more time. Yep, there we go. Now that's not obvious. We're going in a circle and they're still going in a circle. Knowing we're being tailed and fearing the agents may go further, we conceal a camera in a bag in our room. While we are out, it is triggered by a man in a hotel uniform. He has tools and appears to adjust something near our equipment. Minutes later, two others come in and actually make the bed. But then, another person arrives and searches our bag. We recognize him. He's the driver of the black car. Later on, our cameraman confronts him.
Why are you following me? Yeah. Why are you following me? I've seen you following me. Today and yesterday you were following me. Today? Yeah. It's your car? Yeah, and you follow me today? Yeah, I've seen you with my eyes.
The Palestinian Authority is going to great lengths to investigate the journalist behind the story, rather than the story itself. But why? We identify a fifth person who entered our room and find him later outside the hotel.
That is exactly the guy.
Stop the car. How's it going, guys? No. No what? Why are you following us? Who are you? Go. No, I'm right here. You following me? Go to your room. Go to your room. The Palestinian Authority is anxious. You said don't speak with me, okay? Don't speak with me. Why not? I called the police. Call the police. Oh, okay, go. You're broken no laws. You're following me. There is little time left to discover what killed Yasser Arafat. Are you following me? And the Palestinian Authority knows the truth could have profound implications for its future, as well as that of the Middle East. Who are you? Were you in this hotel? What's your name? Whoa. What's your name? Whoa. What's your name? Movenpick Hotel, Ramallah, November 19th. Palestinian security forces have tailed our cars and searched our rooms. When we confront them, they insist they're with the hotel.
I tell him I am security in the hotel, not I am
in the hotel.
You are not in the. You're not from the hotel.
Yeah, not from the
Don't make a
hotel.
misunderstanding.
When the manager confirms that these are new special effects, they are not his employees. We know they are spying on us. And at a time when the Khalas? Okay. We got that far. I'm happy that we got that far. With sometimes these technical things can be difficult. Why did I show you those clips? So, from an objective standpoint, if a journalist came to the United States and revealed some new information about how President Kennedy had been assassinated in 1963, I can assure you the response he would get in America would be very welcoming, very pleasant, very interesting. How did you get into this, etc. The response that my team faced in Ramallah was outright hostility by the Palestinian Authority. We weren't expecting a thank you, but I think given that the case had been put forward as a criminal case by the French government wanted to take jurisdiction, exhume his body. They have courts, they have ability. I thought this was something the Palestinian Authority would want to cooperate in, right? There's evidence to believe that their leader was killed with poison. One would think that they'd want to know if it's true or not, and they'd want to cooperate with the exhumation. This wasn't the case. The first things that happened, if you saw the film, they wanted to send the Arafat file to the United Nations. They wanted to take it to the Arab League. I mean, did anyone in this room think that the United Nations or the Arab League were going to take the Arafat investigation forward? Meanwhile, there was a clock ticking, which was the polonium in Arafat's skeleton. If they waited beyond the end of 2012, there wouldn't have been any polonium left because of its decay chain. It would have simply disappeared. And if you saw the film, you know that the Swiss found 18 to 36 times the normal levels of polonium in Arafat's skeleton. So that can't be manipulated. No one could have put it in there unless it was circulating in his body. And for those reasons, the Swiss scientists said, the Swiss said with moderate confidence, up to 83% confidence, 5 out of a scale of 6, their belief that he was poisoned. Arafat's skeleton had more polonium than any skeleton ever recorded in history. And it was also in his blood, and also in his urine, in his toothbrush, in his collar. Any reasonable, logical person would conclude the man was murdered. So what's the Palestinian Authority do? What's Tawfiq Tarawi, the head of the investigative commission, say? He goes on television and says, we're not sure it was poison. The Russians come out and say there was no poison. The French come out and say it was no poison. Was Al Jazeera making it up? Was the Swiss, a federally funded Swiss lab used by the United Nations, renowned for their credibility, did they publish a 108-page report fabricating? I don't think so. This story in particular, more than the Palestine papers, by the way, it touched a raw nerve. And those of you who are Palestinian journalists in this room will have seen in recent months the public debate between Mohammed Dahlan and Mahmoud Abbas, both of them referencing Arafat in rhetoric against each other. You know something about Arafat's death. No, you know something. You released someone, etc., etc. I ask you, well, I can tell you as an American, as a Western journalist, if anyone in any murder case, pretty much anywhere in the world, people were talking details of a murder, they would find themselves in court by an investigator. What do you know? And to my knowledge, neither Mahmoud Abbas nor Mohammed Dahlan have spoken to the French about what they know. They prefer to go on TV instead. If they care about their leader, one would think they would take evidence to a court in a country that has jurisdiction and the ability to investigate. I'm not talking a kangaroo court or a body in New York that, the United Nations where no one decides anything. There's an actual criminal investigation right now in France, and they're still investigating Arafat's death. So, we're going to open this up to discussion, and I'm going to stop lecturing, if you will. I want to maybe ask the Palestinian journalists in this room, why so little work has been done by Palestinian journalists on this story, why there's been so few questions posed to the Palestinian Authority about them burying this case. One, trying to stop it from happening, trying to stop the exhumation from happening. Two, not making witnesses available to the French. They want to use Arafat as a point of debate to score points on the other. Dahlan against Abbas, Abbas against Dahlan. And whether you like Arafat or not, whether you think Arafat was a good leader, a corrupt leader, a hero, a terrorist, doesn't matter. He was one of you, and he was a human being. And he was murdered in a most uncivilized way, a very bad way. Polonium, if you get polonium in your system, you're dead. There's no saving you. There's no known antidote. There's only been one other recorded assassination by this, and that was Alexander Litvinenko, a Russian spy killed in 2006, 2 years after Arafat. Arafat may have indeed been the first assassination by this. So I've struggled as a journalist covering the Palestinian issue, frankly, by feeling that most of the media coverage about the Arafat investigation came from the West. It didn't come from Palestinian journalists. It didn't come from Arab journalists. And when I ask Arab journalists, they say to me, we know he was murdered. Okay, if you know, present your proof. You don't have proof, get proof. The investigating committee in Ramallah, 8 years, they did nothing. They did nothing for 8 years. And no one was pushing them. So I'm going to open it up for questions, and I know one of the questions will be, why now? Why we did this now? The same with the Palestine Papers. Why now? Why not now? That's my answer. Someone comes to me with information, I'm supposed to say no? It's not good timing politically for Fatah Hamas, or it's bad for the peace talk. No. As journalists, of course I'm aware of all the background considerations, but it's not a deciding factor in whether we publish something or not. Nor do I hope it ever will be. So, if anything, I've talked to you about some of the challenges of reporting documents. It's very hard. I've talked to you about some of the political challenges that Western journalists face. In this case, I even work for Al Jazeera. I face them. Outright hostility. I'm CIA, I'm a troublemaker, I'm this, I'm that. All on cases that presumably Arabs, Muslims, Palestinians care about. When we go to ask the question of why more people don't cover Palestine, again, I take you to, I do it because I believe in the truth, and I believe that there's a historic injustice, and I think it's underreported. I have my motivations, I have my own personal history, but I can tell you it's not illogical for many Western journalists to look at this issue and say, I don't want to get involved. It's too messy. There's no upside to it. Everyone's going to hate you in the end. Everyone's going to criticize. Not everyone, obviously. I'm in friendly territory here. But it does come with its drawbacks, and you have to pursue through them. Usually in our job, journalism, when people are angry at you most, you're on the right track. Abdul Bari knows this. When you have sometimes the most criticism, you know that you're doing your job properly. Because if you're pleasing everyone, you're pleasing no one, you're probably not doing your job as a journalist. So with that, thank you very much. I would look forward to your questions.
Thank you for this film. Just because we are from West Bank, we now outside of West Bank, we want to ask what you have knowing about the killing Yasser Arafat, and you haven't tell us in this film. If you have something, I understand if you do films, there is something you don't speak about. If you can give us something, maybe the people of Palestine know that there is some of Sulta in West Bank, in Ramallah, you now know about this.
Okay. I think I understood your question to be, pardon me, probably the microphone. You want to know if I have any details about the case that I haven't made in this film. Thank you for that. One, I wouldn't be a very good investigative journalist if I told you guys what I'm working on now, though I understand your interest. But I'll put something out here. One of the things Dahlan said on Dream TV, I bet there's a lot of Dream TV watchers here. No? Dream TV, it's Egyptian channel. Anyways, Dahlan gives a long 2-hour interview on Dream TV, and he accuses Abbas, I read the transcript, He said Mahmoud Abbas released from jail a security guard that worked in Arafat's office. Released him and let him leave Palestine, and he hasn't come back. Consider that. Consider that as a journalist, there's people that I have not been able to find. The head of Arafat's security detail, Yusuf Abdullah, from 417, left Palestine for Russia immediately after Arafat was killed, allegedly got a large promotion, and became the second secretary at the PLO embassy in Moscow. I've not been able to find him. I hope all of you can. Yusuf Abdullah controlled access to Arafat's office. Okay? Mohammed Daya, who was a bodyguard for Arafat, was fired just before his death and accused of spying on Arafat. He knew everything that came in and everything that came out. Mohammed Daya wouldn't speak with us. Why was he replaced? Why was the person that knew everything and who went to see Arafat removed so shortly before his death? Why was the head of Arafat's security force nowhere to be found? The investigating commission in Palestine has not interviewed him. Why haven't anyone asked these questions? They're so obvious to me. It really isn't going to be that much harder to solve this case. I'm telling you that. Maybe I'm too close to it, but 3 years ago, if you told me that we would come this far, I would say, you're high on drugs. We've made a huge breakthrough. Forensics, proof that this man was murdered with polonium. That means someone had to deliver it to him. That means someone penetrated his security. Whether it's an activist, an Israeli, someone penetrated his security. As an investigator, the first people I'm going to interview is his security. What does General Tarawi do? I think Al Jazeera has made our investigation public. I would like the Palestinian Authority to make their investigation public, because it can't be secret anymore. Too many people know details. We know details that even the Palestinian Authority had no idea about polonium. We've now proven things. It has its own momentum, and it has its own case in France. And I think you guys, you Palestinians in this room, will have better success at answering the who killed than I can as someone from outside. You speak the language, you know the people, you're on the ground. It's much easier for you to do that than for me. When I come there, I'm under surveillance. Okay? They come into my hotel room. I want to go meet with a Palestinian, they're following me. Yeah? I've got to have my cameraman go and pretend to be me, and I got to go out the back of the hotel and get in another car. That's what I got to do, like this is North Korea, to do my job in the areas controlled by the Palestinian Authority. Who can do it better? Palestinians. Sorry, that was such a long, please.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
لمسنا من التقرير الغضب الرسمي على الجهد اللي باركوا الشارع الفلسطيني. نبض الشارع يختلف كليا عن النبض الرسمي عندنا، وجهدك كان مشكور ونكن لك الاحترام والتقدير.
Just tell me what he's saying, please. شكرا جزيلا.
وما تعرضت له من ملاحقة في فلسطين لا شيء يذكر مع ملاحقتنا كمواطنين. أنت تحمل الجنسية الأمريكية ولك حصانة لا أحد يتعدى عليها، ونحن لا أحد يسأل علينا، وما عرفته وتعلمه يعلمه الكثير قبل التقرير. والسلام عليكم.
That's a good point, and thank you for raising it. There is something hypocritical. I'm okay, thank you. There is something hypocritical for me to say, why don't you do more? I have an American passport. You're absolutely right. American forces train the Palestinian security forces to surveil an American journalist. Okay, I'm not even going to get started in how ridiculous that is, but that's the reality, right? They're using European equipment, American training to stop journalists from doing their job. And I have an American passport, you're right. With me, I can argue with Palestinian mukhabarat, yeah? And they get in my face and I get in their face, yeah? And we point and we yell. If it's you, they're gonna assault you, they're gonna punch you, they're gonna torture you, okay? They use torture in the Palestinian jails, it's true. The best way that I can say is I could say Mohammed Darame from the Associated Press. I don't know if you guys know Mohammed Darame, he was in our film. He's outstanding. He speaks truth to power. He works for Associated Press, they're huge. I think the more strength in numbers you have of journalists asking hard questions, the better you are. I think the more journalists you ask, the more public way they ask it, the better you are. I don't recommend doing what I just did as a Palestinian. You're absolutely right. Probably bad things await you, including jail and your family's harassment, etc. Obviously, I pushed the limit as far as I thought I could. But it's a statement about how the West Bank is becoming hostile to journalists. And you're right, out in the village, okay, out in Nablus, out in Tulkarm and Jenin, they're completely different from Ramallah al-Bireh, okay? It's completely different. But there's more of you. So, anyone else want to talk investigative journalism, or should we, please?
So this is not exactly relevant to your documentary on Arafat, but I wanted to find out at what point do you get involved? Does Al Jazeera come to you with documents and say, we want you to investigate this, or is it you that initiates something and gets involved in finding out about the documents? At what time do you actually get involved?
So the sister's question was, at what point do I become involved? Is the information given to me from the company and I do it, and the answer is no. I become involved the second I have the idea. With the Palestine papers, it was luck. The person I had known for a number of years approached me. One person led to another person, led to another person, led to another person. We spent 6 months studying the Palestine papers, making sure that they were real, that we weren't being given fakes. Preparing them for television took a lot of time. So that story initiated with me. The Arafat investigation initiated with me. Oddly enough, and I've said this before, there's no secret here, I did a book called The Palestine Papers. Suha Arafat's friend has a daughter who worked as a publicist for the publisher that I went with. And they put us in touch. And she said to me that she had Yasser Arafat's handwritten diaries from the Lebanon Civil War. Many, many diaries that Arafat had taken. So I went to Malta thinking I was going to convince her to give me the handwritten diaries of Yasser Arafat, which I thought would be an excellent documentary, historical documentary. She wanted to keep those for her daughter. Her daughter wasn't 18 at the time, and she did have available the medical file, and that is also very interesting to me. I should say, by way of background, I didn't earlier, but I knew Yasser Arafat. I was at the State Department. I wasn't CIA like he said. I was State Department. I was a bodyguard and a criminal investigator, and I bodyguarded Yasser Arafat, and I also was a bodyguard for Madeleine Albright during the end of the Oslo peace process. And I was at Camp David at the negotiations as a bodyguard. And I left the State Department in 2002 to go to Georgetown University, and I did my master's dissertation on Camp David. And I wrote a book called The Truth About Camp David. And when I wrote it, the Palestinian Authority loved me because I interviewed 40 plus people who were at the summit who said it wasn't the Palestinians' fault why Camp David failed. Insiders who were at the summit told me on record, I recorded every interview, that Arafat wasn't to blame. It was as much an American and Israeli failure. So I went from being loved by Saab Erekat Mahmoud Abbas, Yasser Arafat, all these guys, yeah, to being hated during the Palestine Papers, and then they didn't know what to think of me with the Arafat. They really, I don't know, some of them liked it, some of them absolutely, as you saw, hated it. So I didn't just walk into the issue cold.
Excuse me. Just for the translation on the channel number 3, okay?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I can speak in English. First of all, thank you for all these efforts. I just want to ask you why you got interested, especially as an American, as someone who has different background in the Palestinian issue, and you are working for Al Jazeera, which normally you can really present your work on Al Jazeera because you have freedom. But regarding other networks like, let's say, BBC and all other networks in the US, can you post these investigative reports on them? Because we know sometimes you have maybe some. I'm not talking especially about Yasser Arafat. Maybe some other investigative reports can be banned, or there are multiple filters until journalists face until the final news or final truth can appear on TV. So how Westerns or Western journalists can deal with these things, because you have more freedom, as you said, to investigate in our cases and what. I hope somehow.
That's an excellent question. But I would say again, safety in numbers.
Yes.
If you're a Palestinian journalist and you have a very good scoop, I don't think it would be smart of you, no disrespect to Mon News Agency, but I don't think it'd be smart for you to partner with Mon News Agency on your scoop. I think you'd be better partnering with an established journalist, whether it's Middle East Eye, this new website that I encourage you to look at, Memo, Al Jazeera, Abdul Bari. There's plenty of journalists who have an outlet that will get more of an audience, that will help you get your story out. Because sometimes people leak it to like a local blog, or stupidest thing, they put it on Facebook. Journalists will not trust information that they find on Facebook. It has a very low chance of going viral if you give a scoop to Facebook or to a local newspaper. It's better that you think of who you trust as a journalist, or you trust as a viewer or reader. Who do you admire and look up to that has a platform? And convince that reporter, work with me on this. And then make sure they give you credit, because that's your story. Yeah? They come in to close it and they're partners with you, but that's your story at the end of the day. So it's Thursday. We've all had lunch. It's been a great conference. Dr. Abdullah, thank you for having me. I don't know if he's here, but I'm a big fan of Memos and CETA, and I like the work that you guys do. It's important and it's getting noticed, and I want to congratulate you on that and encourage you to keep doing it. And I think discussions like these are good. And since I'm in the business of reporting the Arab-Israeli conflict, now some of you had had an opportunity to meet me. So I'm always open for business. If you guys have a story that you think would be good for Al Jazeera, I'd like to hear it. I'd like to work with you, because I know it's hard for you guys to do it by yourselves. And provided it's a consequential story, I go elephant hunting, as I like to say. I look for big stories, things that will change the perceptions that people have around the world. So I'm not interested in who's running against who for mayor. I'm interested in things that affect life and death and the status of your people. So there's a third. This is the second movie. ماذا قتل عرفات؟ مين قتل عرفات بعد؟
Just a question. Why there is different in the view of the Al Jazeera in English rather than Arabic, completely different like policy? What's the reason?
Can you be more specific?
There's many different views, suppose in the Arab countries like Egypt and some other, Syria. when you listen or see the English part, it is completely like into another ocean rather than the Arabic part.
So I don't know if that's a thank you or a criticism, but his question was, why is Al Jazeera English different from Al Jazeera Arabic? So just to start with, I don't work for Arabic or English, I work for the network. My boss is the Director General. Our investigations go out on Al Jazeera America, Balkans, Turk, Arabic, and English. So 5 channels, or 5 or 6. We go to all channels. They're clients to me. We have independence. My 20-person team, we work independent of the rest of the channels. Because as you can imagine, if I had 6 channels telling me how to do my job, I'd get nothing done. I have one boss to please, that's the Director General, and all of our Director Generals, whether it was Wadah Khanfar, Sheikh Ahmed, or Mustafa Swag, they've been 1,000% supportive of our work. Thank God. Your question about how Al Jazeera English reports versus Arabic, I did work at Al Jazeera English my first couple of years. I've been with the channel 7 years. I can tell you that there's 56 nationalities at Al Jazeera English, kind of like the United Nations. So if you ask the United Nations to offer their view of an issue, you'll probably get an internationalist view rather than an Egyptian, a Palestinian, an Iraqi, that view that you would see at Al Jazeera Arabic. I think the award-winning coverage that Al Jazeera English gives, and I think the unrivaled depth that it adds on television to BBC, CNN, we have an Al Jazeera Arabic. Al Jazeera English isn't a competitor to it. It's a unique, different channel for the English-speaking people of the world.
لقد تكرمت وطرحت أنك على استعداد للتعاون لكشف حقائق كثيرة. فكل بيت في فلسطين هناك ما يحتاج إلى لجان تحقيق وليس لجنة واحدة. فعلى سبيل المثال لقد قتل الإسرائيليون أخي أحمد هيجاوي بأكثر من 100 رصاصة بعد الوفاة. ولم يكتفوا بذلك بل ربطوا قدميه وطافوا به في طائرة مروحية فوق منطقة نابلس كلها تقريبا. والأمثلة كثيرة، فهذا مثال واحد من عدة أمثلة، وشكرا.
May God rest his soul. I'm sorry to hear about your brother. I'll be the first to say, I think it's an absolute tragedy to our profession where Israeli deaths are covered with such gross disproportion as if the life of a Palestinian is meaningless. I think your brother's case is not unique. Many are tortured, many are killed. They don't even make headlines anymore.
أنا بكون مشكور إلك كثير إذا بترجع لي عظامه. صار له 40 سنة مدفون مش معطينا إياه.
Okay, we could talk after. I don't know that I could help with that, but I think Al-Quds University, the Forensic Science Department, Dr. Saber Alul, he's an excellent forensic scientist. If he's buried in Palestine, they should be able to, they have the knowledge to be able to do an exhumation, scientific knowledge. And if there hasn't been an investigation done, I would hope that there would be. Yes, ma'am.
أنا أتحدث بالعربي أستاذ. تمام. حضرتك قلت إنك مهتم بالقضايا المهمة والقضايا المثيرة زي القضايا الفلسطينية وغيرها. بعيد عن القضية الفلسطينية، في نفس الموضوع بيحدث في مصر ونفس الموضوع بيحدث في سوريا. مثلا في سوريا أخيرا تم اكتشاف الأفران زي ما عمل هتلر في اليهود بيحدث في السوريين ما بين النظام والفلسطينيين الثوار. ونفس الموضوع بيحدث في مصر في المعتقلات.
Are you asking me about the coup in Egypt?
Uh-huh.
Did I just say the coup in Egypt? The coup in Egypt.
Yes.
The coup in Egypt. Sorry, go ahead. The coup in Egypt. Go ahead.
Okay.
Was I supposed to say that?
You shouldn't say that.
We will.
تمام، أكمل؟
اتفضل.
نفس الموضوع بيحدث في مصر في المعتقلات من قبل السيسي وغيره. في أكثر من 6000 واحد مات في فض اعتصامات رابعة العدوية والنهضة. في أكثر من 20,000 جوه المعتقلات مضربين عن الطعام، بالإضافة أيضا إن هم بيتم معاملتهم بشكل وحشي جدا في التعذيب، الصعق بالكهرباء، الضرب بالشوم، كب المية السخنة على أجسادهم، والصعق في أماكن حساسة جدا. أنتم فين من الموضوع ده؟ يعني ده برضو موضوع حساس جدا. شكرا.
Okay, well, I can't speak for the network because I'm not a network spokesman. I'm the head of the investigative unit, and we have 20 investigators, and we do a lot of stories, not just in the Middle East. So that's what I'm going to say probably won't satisfy you. With respect to Syria, I contacted the same Swiss laboratory I used for the Arafat investigation in August 2013. This was to see if they would be willing to go to Syria to measure sarin gas. And the response they gave me was one of interest, but I remember it was a very technical response. Sarin gas dissipates, it evaporates, and when it's in the blood and it's ingested, it disappears within hours. Okay, so essentially you would have to have a forensic scientist already in Syria immediately after the attack happened, immediately. To be able to get evidence to preserve to be used in a court case. Getting sarin gas is the deadliest gas there is. Finding a volunteer forensic scientist to go there and stand around and wait to be gassed is a challenge. They weren't close to doing it, but this is something the United Nations looked at, and I think the intelligence communities of the West determined that it was sarin gas. So there's not really much I could add as an investigative journalist into this. I think Al Jazeera has reported Syria and Egypt to our own detriment. We have, as they say, skin in the game. We have 3 journalists that have been in jail for many months now. It's an outrage. And that's because we report what we see, and there's a high price for that. Like I said, from my own experience, I have it easy. People use words. I haven't had my freedom taken away from me yet.
Okay, thank you. My question is about investigative journalism. Maybe it's about its methodology, we can say that. Some people argue that investigative journalism and journalists are used from intelligence agencies because they are looking for the secrets. They are going to some, how I can say, dark areas or something like that. And it is actually some debate about that all the investigative journalists are used somehow. Can you tell us about this in debate or something?
Yeah, I could tell you because I'm frequently accused of it. It's ridiculous. His question is that our investigative journalists, the debate is that they're somehow intelligence agents undercover looking for information. So would regular reporters be very bad intelligence officers? Because all journalists are looking for information. I mean, the background, though, I have no problem. I freely talk about it. It's Google it. I did work for the U.S. government. I was a United States Marine. I'm proud of my service for my country. I was with the State Department for 3 years. I was a bodyguard and an investigator. Okay, and I'll just finish. When I was in the military, I was a military policeman. Now, this might not sound like something journalists do, but I learned how to write reports, observe things, and write them down.
When I was with the State Department, I investigated visa and passport fraud, and I worked counterintelligence cases. I learned how to interview people, I learned how to report, and I learned how to document. When I wrote my first book, I used those same skills. I interviewed people who were at Camp David. I took recorded interviews. I found out what they said and what the differences were, and I analyzed them. It's the progression in my instance, it helped me to have that background. And I could say it also helps me as a journalist to know how the very governments that I investigate operate, because I've seen it. I know how this game works. So for me, it's been helpful, even if people accuse me of whatever.
Okay, I can understand that, but don't you think that it affects badly this, what you talked about, affect badly the journalism as a career? Because, as you said, now all the security forces will be suspicious about the journalist. Don't you think that it have bad effects on the journalist as a career?
Don't I think about me or investigative journalism?
No. What did you say? You said that my background helped me or something like that. But don't you think that this using from intelligence agencies, or if you have some background like this, it would affect badly the journalists and journalists all over the world somehow, because all the security forces will be suspicious about all the journalists, especially the investigative journalists.
I could tell you that security forces around the world are not just suspicious about investigative journalists.
Of course,
they don't like
especially
journalists.
about the journalists.
They don't, I mean, in Algeria, I can't go to Algeria because Al Jazeera is not allowed. We're seen as a security threat to the state. If Al Jazeera comes, we must be bringing a revolution with us. So it's journalism. I was arrested in Abu Dhabi once. Mabhouh, the Hamas operative who was killed in Dubai. Okay, in 2010, January, February, I was in Abu Dhabi investigating the presence of two Palestinians on CCTV footage who were seen helping the Israeli team that killed Mabhouh. Anwar Shaheber and Hassan Abu Hassanin. Okay? I was looking at what their roles were in Abu Dhabi, who paid them, who financed them, where they had been in the days leading up to Mabhouh's killing. I had an interview with the Palestinian ambassador in Abu Dhabi. I was arrested on my way there. I was put in jail with my team. The Emirati security forces told me, "We would rather you have had a gun than a camera." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "A camera you don't bring near an embassy." I said, "You're arresting us because we came near an embassy?" We had an interview with an ambassador. He said, "I would rather you have a gun than a camera." So it's not about us being investigators, that we were looking at the same case, though maybe it is. The fact that we're journalists is enough to get you thrown in jail. تفضل.
سؤالي طبعا ميبل الاستاذ عبد الباري ترانسليت لازم يعطوه. انا سؤالي بصفتك انك صحفي متعاطف مع القضيه الفلسطينيه، هل ممكن تعطينا نبذه عن مدى تعاطف الصحفيين الاوروبيين سواء في امريكا او في اوروبا مع القضيه الفلسطينيه، وهل هناك اصلا في ناس متعاطفين مع هذه القضيه وشو بيقدموا لهالموضوع مثل ما انت ما بتقدم؟
So it's not so much that I'm sympathetic to Palestinians as I'm sympathetic to justice. The first time I went to the West Bank was as a bodyguard for Madeleine Albright. And I traveled there and I saw the way the divisions, this is in 2000, I saw that it was the racist divisions for me, and I was an American official. At the summit I saw the way they unfairly blamed a weaker party who's occupied. As an American, my own history, we removed the British occupation. We rose up and we fought against it. We were proud of that. To me, it's a justice issue. And I think many Americans, if you speak to them in terms of justice, it has more of a resonance with them. It has more, I can't erase what my eyes have seen. The first times I went to Gaza, after I left government, I went backpacking. I was at Georgetown. I went backpacking in the Gaza Strip in 2003. And I stayed with the family in Gaza. They were excellent. And they took me everywhere within the Strip. And imagine, I just came out of a law enforcement background. I worked for the government, now I'm a student. And I'm staying in homes while there's missile strikes on camps nearby, and I can hear drones at night flying overhead. And I thought, this is being done with my tax-paying money. Why are they doing it to these people? 1.6 million people crammed in an area twice the size of Washington, D.C. It's ridiculous. It's barbaric. So these were my personal experiences that as a journalist, does it make me biased? No, it makes me more experienced. I've seen with my own eyes. So when I go and I hear an Israeli press conference, I'll tell you a story that doesn't involve me. Sivi Livni came to speak to Al Jazeera 2009 or so. I was invited to the meeting. It was Wada Khanfar, Sivi Livni, Ahmed Sheikh, and some other Al Jazeera managers. And Ahmed Sheikh left. I wish he was here to fill this story in for me. But she was telling, why is Al Jazeera attacking the peace process? If only you guys would be fair. We're close and you guys could help us give a push. You know, why are you guys, you're hurting the chances for peace by making Arabs angry against Israel. This was all a room of Palestinians and me. And the issue of settlements was raised. And Sivi Livni started to say, we are not building settlements, there's been a freeze, there's construction. And Ahmed Sheikh interrupts her, and he speaks eloquent British accented English. And he says, Madam Livni, with all due respect, my family is from Nablus, and just a few weeks ago, you took 200 dunams of land from my family's home, and she couldn't say anything. Because he knew from his own experience, his own family. So, again, for a Westerner who has no experience in this part of the world to confront the well-trained Israeli PR machine, it's difficult. I would say the best thing Palestinians could do is encourage Western journalists to visit the West Bank, because anyone with any fair sense that goes there and sees the treatment, the segregation, the apartheid features of their life, they will come back changed. And if they don't, then their minds are sealed, yeah? They'll believe that the moon is made of Swiss cheese. There's no convincing them. If you bring them, and like I said, for me, going to Gaza, the treatment that a family gave me there, well, they had nothing in the camps. They had nothing, and they made dinner for me by borrowing beans and food from a neighbor, bread from a neighbor. They had no TV. They lived in a metal box. They lived in the beach camp. They had nothing, and they fed me because I was a visitor. It was probably all the food they had, because their manners, their Palestinian culture required a guest came, I must feed him. And I knew they had nothing. It made me cry. I couldn't believe it. And these are the poorest of poor people. They have nothing, and my government is helping their occupation, and they have time, they're feeding me. How can I go back to America and look at the conflict the same way? Gaza is something abstract. No, these are people, I've met them. They are living in an open-air prison. And as journalists, we have an obligation to report that. It's an injustice. The same way we have a responsibility to report other injustices around the world. Me, I'm here because my background happens to intersect with yours, which is Palestine. If I had been based in Africa, maybe I would have more of an empathy and understanding of what's happened. But my experience, actually the government took me there, was Palestine. Because of that experience, I got involved, and now I can't correct what's in my head. It's there. I saw what I saw. So.
سؤالي بالعربي أستاذ عبد الباري. حضرتك منحاز للعدالة وللإنسانية، وأنا بحيي فيك هذا الحس، بحيي فيك إنسانيتك وعدالتك. سؤالي، حضرتك صحافي غربي ولك الحرية في الصداقة والشراكة، هل لك علاقات مع صحفيين إسرائيليين؟ وفيك تخبرنا كيف هن بيطلعوا للصراع العربي الإسرائيلي؟ وآخر سؤال، هل شاركت بإعداد تقارير استقصائية أو أفلام وثائقية عن المجتمع الإسرائيلي من الداخل؟ وشكرا جزيلا لك.
Yes, I do, and I can tell you, I have very good friends who are Israeli journalists. There are some that have an incredible weight on their conscience. And it would never be enough to satisfy this audience. They live there after all. They have their reasons for living there, whether they were born there. But there are some Israeli journalists who are really uncomfortable and feel it's wrong. And little by little, they try to do what they can. It's never going to be enough for this audience. I understand that. Because I cover the conflict, I have to cover both sides. And that means I have to work with, I frequently interview Israelis, senior Israeli officials, intelligence officials, military officials. They can easily research me, and I frequently research them. So when they come, they know I'm with Al Jazeera. They know that I've done this, and they're not expecting me to, tell them how great they are. But I think because I handle my job professionally, I come prepared. And because of the amount of global attention our stories get, they sit with us because we're Al Jazeera.
Hi, my name is Marwa Jbaratibi. I'm a journalist, first of all. I would like to know if you've been in Gaza war, where you were in the last time, in which side?
Pardon me?
You covered the Gaza war?
I covered the Gaza war?
Yeah, last
No.
time. Okay.
I was in Doha during the Gaza war. Our correspondents, Ayman Moheldin and Shireen Tadros.
No, actually what happened during the Gaza operation, the Israelis call it operation, it was a war in Gaza. So what happened that we as journalists were responsible for a war crime, and why? Because we accept to play the role according to the Israeli in a way that none of us enter Gaza because they close Gaza. None of us was inside Gaza to tell the story as it was happening there.
That's not true.
Besides,
Al Jazeera covered the
I
story.
didn't finish,
Yeah.
okay? I didn't finish. Just Al Jazeera was there, and those who entered through Egypt, and those are 10%. Most of the international media was covering Gaza from a hell that seeing just the dust of the killing, but not feeling it, not hearing it, not smelling it. So I was telling other journalists, guy, we are playing a game here. We are participating actually in a war, accepting the fact to cover the war from this hell with the espresso machine beside us. Why the media that's supposed to be telling the story accepted the fact to tell the story from far away? This is bullshit. This is not telling the story. When I was telling the colleagues, guys, let's cut it. Let's say we won't play this game. Let's go back to Jerusalem. Omar was stop doing that. We have to cover it. We have news to fill. So what you will say about that?
I think I understand your point, which is Western journalists who weren't able to get into Gaza encouraged the Israelis to have their narrative heard by not being in Gaza. And all I can say is I worked at Al Jazeera. I was very proud of our reporting of Ayman Moheldin and Shireen Tadros. And I'll just tell you my own experience. I tried to go to Gaza. I was at the border in Rafah when it was like the 5th or 6th day of the war. They wouldn't let us in. They were bombing Khan Yunis. And it was terrible. There was a convoy of ambulances. The Egyptian government would not let the ambulances come in. So the only way that I could do my job as a journalist, ironically, there at the border, was not to cover something. Gamal Mubarak came, I would say, at the end of the first week of the war. He came for 1 hour to Rafah, just when the ambulances, like 3 of them, went across to pick up some wounded and take them back. And he invited all the press to come and watch him shake hands with the people on the stretcher. And I said, this is bullshit. Al Jazeera won't cover this. You have more ambulances, you're not letting them in. You're doing this as a gruesome photo op. You're coming here to shake hands as if Egypt's helping. And they were only doing that because the Egyptian people were furious. I mean, Egypt locked the door while the house was on fire. It was very clear, and I can't prove it. As an analyst, I'm speaking, not as a journalist. I think that played a role in the 2011 revolution. People hurt, their insides hurt from years of unjust policy towards Palestine. Even if they don't love the Palestinians, they felt their insides hurt morally for things like the Gaza war where they sat and they did nothing?
It's a workshop, so let's talk. Listen, it's easy to blame Israel, it's easy to blame Egypt. I'm saying we as a journalist are responsible, because if each one of us decided to take his camera away saying, I'm not playing this game, you will have black on the TV 5 minutes saying this is the coverage of the war in Gaza because we were not allowed to go in, then we can make the change. We have also to look
But I don't take
toward
responsibility
us.
for, that's not the kind of journalism I do, so I don't accept responsibility for it.
Yeah,
That's
but
not what Al Jazeera did, so I don't accept
Al
responsibility.
Jazeera was inside, but Al Jazeera in Jerusalem was also in the hell. Come on. They didn't do anything to stop this game.
Okay. I thought our coverage was excellent. Anyone else? So, it's the end of the last day. I've really learned a lot from you. Hopefully I've given you some ideas. If they're bad ones, feel free to throw them away. If they're good ones, then I hope they help you in your journalism. And thank you again for having me. And
Mr. Clayton, we must thank you for this conference, and we just invite Mr. Abdelbari Atwan to give the trophy for Mr. Clayton Swisher.
You get a trophy? This is for class participation? Or? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Oh, cool.
Thanks a lot. الآن نتوجه.
في عالم يموج بالأحداث وتتسارع فيه المتغيرات، قد تتحول الأهداف وتتسع المسافات. نتواصل لتبقى فلسطين هي البوصلة. منتدى فلسطين الدولي للإعلام والاتصال. تواصل